Good morning, students. Hope all of you are doing well. So, we have completed 2 chapters of chemistry, and I hope all of you have completed your previous work. So, let's start chapter 3. Today, we are going to start chapter 3. The name of the chapter 3 is Elements, Compounds, and Mixtures. So, in this chapter, we are going to study elements, compounds, mixtures, type of mixtures, and pure substances, metalloids, noble gases, and separation methods. So we are going to study all this in this chapter. So let's do it one by one. The first topic is chemical classification of matter. So in this chapter, we are going to study the classification of matter based on chemical properties. So let's see the classification. In this diagram, you can see matter is classified into 2 categories: pure substances, impure substances, or mixtures. Then pure substances again divided into two: elements and compounds. Then elements divided into four: metals, non-metals, metalloids, and noble gases. And compound again divided into two: inorganic compounds and organic compounds. So what is the meaning of organic compounds? In organic compounds, we study the carbon and its compounds. So the carbon and its compound are going to be studied in organic compounds, and rest of the elements are studied in inorganic compounds. And then impure substances or mixtures. So there are 2 types of mixtures: homogeneous mixture and heterogeneous mixture. So we will study it one by one. The next topic is homogeneous material. In this category, we are going to study pure substances. So what is pure substances? It is a homogeneous material which contain particles, that is atom or molecule, of only one kind and has a definite set of properties. In simply words, we can say pure substances is a homogeneous material and it is made up of only one kind of molecule. So this point is to be remembered, that pure substances made up of only one kind of molecules. And there are characteristics of a pure substances. It is a homogeneous in nature. It has a definite set of properties. The composition of a pure substance cannot be changed by physical methods. So this point is very important. We can't change the composition of pure substance by physical methods. If we want to change the composition of a pure substance, so we go through a chemical process or the chemical method. We can't do it by physical method. So this point is very important. And pure substance are further 2 types. So there are 2 types of pure substances: elements and compounds. The next topic is elements. So what is element? Element is a pure substance which cannot be broken down into simpler substances by any physical or chemical methods. So element is a pure substance which cannot be broken into simpler substances by physical or chemical methods. Now we come to the next topic, metals. What is metals? We know what are the characteristics of the metal. So they have bright metallic luster, means all metals are luster or shiny. Metals are good conductor of heat and electricity. Metals are ductile, means they can be drawn into thin wires. So this property is known as ductility. Metals are malleable, means they can be beaten into sheets. Metals have high melting and boiling points. Metals are solid at room temperature. And metals are sonorous. It means metal produce a sound while beaten on striking. So metal always produce a sound when they beaten. So this property is known as sonorous. The example of metals are copper, silver, gold, iron, aluminium, tin, etc. And there are some exceptions which are metals but which do not follow the characteristic of the metals. So there are some exceptions, like mercury and gallium are liquid at room temperature. We know that metals are solid at room temperature. So it is the exception. Mercury and gallium are liquid at room temperature. Sodium and potassium are soft metals. We know that metals are hard. the nature of the metal, that metal is hard. But sodium and potassium are soft metals. Even we cut them with knife, they are very soft. Then zinc is neither malleable nor ductile. We know the malleability or ductility is the property of metal. But zinc is neither malleable nor ductile. Then tungsten is a poor conductor of electricity. We know all the metals are good conductor of electricity, but tungsten is the exception. It is a poor conductor of electricity. So there are some exception which are metal but which do not follow the characteristic of metal. So these all are exception, you should be remember. Then we come to the next. Next is non-metals. So what is non-metals? Simply, non-metals do not have the characteristics of the metals, or we can say non-metals have opposite characteristics of metal. You can see in the characteristics. They do not have bright luster. They are poor conductor of heat and electricity. Non-metals are not ductile. Non-metals are not malleable. They have low melting and boiling points. And non-metal exist all the three states of matter. So we can see in the characteristic, it's a just opposite of metals. So we understand in this way that non-metals are just opposite characteristic of metal. Examples: carbon, sulfur, phosphorus, iodine, oxygen, nitrogen. And there is also exception of non-metal. Graphite has a luster and is a good conductor of heat and electricity. We know that non-metal is a poor conductor of heat and electricity, but graphite has a luster and good conductor of heat and electricity. Iodine has luster. We know that non-metals are not luster or shiny, but iodine has luster. Bromine is liquid at room temperature. So these all are the exception of non-metals. The next topic is metalloids. What is metalloids? The element which show the property of metals as well as non-metals are called metalloids. In simply words, we can say metalloids have some property of metals and some property of non-metal. Example: arsenic, antimony, bismuth, germanium. Then we come to the next topic, noble gases. So what are noble gases? There are certain characteristics of noble gases. Noble gases are gaseous in nature. All noble gases are found in gaseous state. They are chemically less reactive. We know noble gases are less reactive. That's why we call noble gas a inert gas. And noble gases are found in very trace amount in atmosphere. So we also call rare gases. So there are two other name of noble gases, that is inert gas and rare gas. Noble gases always exist as monoatomic molecule. The example are helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon and radon. Radon is radioactive and helium is the second lightest element. Then we come to the compound. A compound is a pure substance which is made up of two or more elements combined chemically in a fixed ratio by weight, and it can be broken down into elements by chemical methods only. So what is compound? Compound is made up of two or more elements. When two or more elements combine chemically in a fixed ratio, then compound will form. So this is a simple definition. When two or more elements combine chemically in a fixed ratio by weight, so compound will form, and it can be broken down into elements by only chemical method. By physical method, we can't break down the compound. Example of compound are carbon dioxide, water and ammonia. Then we come to the characteristic of compound. What are the characteristic of compound? The various characteristic of compound are: it is homogeneous in nature, it has a fixed composition by weight. I already taught you that elements in a fixed ratio combine chemically. So it has a fixed composition by weight. For example, water. Water is a compound, and hydrogen and oxygen chemically combine together in a fixed ratio, that is 1:8 by mass, to form water. So there is a ratio of 1:8 of water, of hydrogen and oxygen in water. A compound is formed from its element by chemical reaction only. So compound formed by only chemical reaction. The constituent elements of a compound cannot be separated by physical method. If we want to separate the constituents of a compound, so we apply chemical method. It cannot be separated by any physical method. The chemical compound can be broken into its component elements, and the properties of a compound are different from those of constituent element. So when the compound will form, the property of compound is totally different from its constituents. Like if iron and sulfur combine together, both are element. For example, if iron and sulfur combine together, they will form the compound iron sulfide. And iron sulfide has totally different properties from iron and sulfur. It does not have the property of iron, it does not have the property of sulfur. The iron sulfide property is totally different from its constituent. So you can understand this by this example. Then here is a next example. Like water. Water is composed of two elements, hydrogen and oxygen. We know hydrogen is a highly inflammable gas, whereas oxygen is supporter of combustion, but water is a fire extinguisher. So you know the property of water is totally different from hydrogen and oxygen. So this is compound. The formation of compound from its element is accompanied by energy changes. When the compound will form, there is always change in energy. So energy changes can be in the two forms. So there are two kind of reaction, exothermic reaction and endothermic reaction. In exothermic reaction, heat is given out, and endothermic reaction, heat is absorbed. So you can see in the example, burning of candle releases energy in form of heat and light. So it is an exothermic reaction. So burning of a candle is exothermic reaction because it releases energy in the form of heat and light. An endothermic reaction is photosynthesis because plant absorb energy, hence this reaction is called endothermic reaction. So basically the difference between exothermic and endothermic is that in exothermic energy is released, energy is given out, and in endothermic energy is absorbed. A compound has its own characteristic melting point and boiling point. So this is another important point, that a compound has its own melting point and boiling point. Then the next topic is mixtures. So what is mixtures? Mixtures are impure substances. Mixture is a material obtained by mechanically mixing two or more substances in any proportion. So when we mix two or more substances in any proportion, there is not fixed proportion, we can mix in any proportion. So when we mix two or more substances in any proportion, then mixture will form. For example, air is a mixture of nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, water vapor, etc. Smoke is a mixture of carbon particles and air. Gunpowder is a mixture of nitrate, sulfur and charcoal. Brass is a mixture of copper and zinc. So there are two types of mixture, homogeneous mixtures and heterogeneous mixtures. Then we come to the types of mixture. First we see homogeneous mixture. So what is homogeneous mixture? A mixture in which the different constituents are mixed uniformly and has the uniform composition throughout is called homogeneous mixture. So in homogeneous mixture there is a uniform composition. For example, brass is a homogeneous mixture of copper and zinc. So we all know brass is a alloy and brass is a homogeneous mixture of copper and zinc. An aqueous solution of sodium chloride is a homogeneous mixture of sodium chloride and water because it is a uniform composition. So homogeneous mixture have a uniform composition throughout. Then we come to the heterogeneous mixture, a mixture which is the different constituents are not mixed uniformly and does not have a uniform composition. So it's totally opposite of homogeneous. If a mixture has not uniform composition, we call it heterogeneous mixture. For example, soil is a heterogeneous mixture. A mixture of common salt, sand and sulfur is a heterogeneous mixture. So these are the two examples of heterogeneous mixture. Then we come to the next topic, true solution. What is true solution? When the size of solute particle is so small that it mixes evenly with the solvent particle and is perceived as single component, such a solution is called true solution. So true solution is that when solute particle is so small and when they mix evenly in the solution, so we call it true solution. For example, if we add a pinch of sodium chloride in glass of water, so this is a true solution because solute particle evenly mix with the solvent. Then we come to the colloidal solution. When the size of solute particle is greater than the particles in true solution, which make it perceived separately, but the solute particles become an integral part of the solution and cannot be filtered. So the solute particle size is greater than the true solution of colloidal solution. We can simply understand it in colloidal solution, the size of the solute particles are greater than true solution and it is an integral part of the solution. We cannot separate it. So this is colloidal solution. For example, milk. Milk is an example of colloidal solution. Milk is a complex mixture of calcium ions, sugar and other vitamin in which we cannot filter. Hence, it is known as a colloidal solution. We cannot separate the constituents. It is the integral part of the solution. So, it is called the colloidal solution. Then we come to the suspension. When the solute particles are big enough to be perceived separately and can be filtered, leaving solute particles as a residue is a suspension. So in suspension, solute particles are big enough, then we can separate the solute particles by filter the solution. So this is called the suspension. But in colloidal solution, we cannot separate it by filtration. So that is the difference between colloidal and suspension. First, the solute particles are big enough in size, and second, we cannot separate by filtration in colloidal solution, but in suspension, we can separate the solute particles by filtration, like sawdust in water. So if there is a, you can see in the diagram, sawdust in water, we can separate it by filtration. The next topic is types of mixture. So here is the table. You can see in the table the various type of mixtures like solid-solid mixture. Nature of the mixture is homogeneous. Example, brass, bronze and solder. Then solid-solid mixture, heterogeneous. Example, common salt and sand. Then solid liquid mixture, homogeneous, sugar in water. Solid liquid mixture, heterogeneous, sand in water. Now the next topic is separation of components of a mixture. How can we separate the components of a mixture? So the mixtures can be separated into components on the basis of first, the physical state of the constituents, second, the difference in physical properties of the constituent as melting point, boiling point, density, volatility, solubility in various solvent, magnetic properties, sublimation and diffusion. So on the basis of these properties, we separate the components of a mixture. So let's see the procedure. First is method used for separation of solid-solid mixture, means components are in solid state. So the first method is by mechanical picking or hand picking. So what is hand picking? This method is used for the separation of components of a mixture in which constituents have different size, different colors. So the point to be remembered, hand picking method is used when the components are different in size or different in color. So we use the method of hand picking. For example, copper fillings can be separated from iron fillings by simple hand picking. Then the next method is magnetic separation. This method is used for the separation of component of mixture in which one of component is magnetic. So when we use this method, we use this method when one component is magnetic. For example, a mixture of iron fillings and sand can be separated by magnet. So one component should be magnetic. Then we use the method of magnetic separation. The procedure is spread the mixture in the form of a thin layer over a piece of paper. Place another sheet of paper over the mixture. A strong horseshoe magnet is repeatedly passed over the mixture until all the magnetic particles are removed. So this is the procedure. How can we do the magnetic separation? And in diagram you can see we use a strong horseshoe and the iron particles. So the magnetic horseshoe attract the iron particles. So this method is used for the separation when one component is magnetic. The next method is gravity separation. This method is used for the separation of components of a mixture which one of the component is much lighter than the other and also lighter than water. So when we use the method of gravity separation, we use this method when one component is lighter and another component is heavier and both the component are lighter from water. So a mixture of sand and sawdust can be separated by this method. So we take a mixture of sand and sawdust in water in the beaker. You can see this diagram. So what will happen? We know that the sawdust is lighter than sand. So sand will settle down in the bottom and sawdust will float on the upper surface. So we can separate this decanation followed by the filtration. So by the process of decanation and filtration, we separate this. So we use gravity separation when one component is lighter and another component is heavier. Then we come to the next method, sublimation. We all have studied previously that what is sublimation. So this method is used for separation of the components of a mixture which one component undergoes sublimation where others does not. So when we use the sublimation method, when one component is sublimate and other components are not. So one component should be sublimate to follow the procedure of sublimation. For example, a mixture of ammonium chloride. We know ammonium chloride is a sublimate and common salt can be separated by this method. We know ammonium chloride is sublimate and salt is not sublimate. So we separate both by the process of sublimation. In this diagram you can see how does the sublimation occur. So by the help of the diagram you can understand this method. Then the next method is by solvent extraction or by using suitable solvent and filtration. It is the process of dissolving one of the components of the mixture in a suitable solvent such as water, whereas the other component is not soluble in the solvent. For example, a mixture of charcoal and sulfur can be separated by this method. The mixture is treated with carbon disulfide which dissolves sulfur, whereas charcoal is left behind. The insoluble charcoal is separated by filtration and is dried. So in this method, one component should be soluble in the solvent and another component will not soluble in the solvent. Then separation of solid liquid mixture. How can we separate the solid liquid mixture? So the first method is by sedimentation and decanation. So it is very important what is sedimentation and what is decanation. In this method, the mixture is allowed to stand when solid particles settle down as sediment, whereas clear liquid is left behind which is poured out carefully, and this process is called decanation. So you can see in the diagram, we can take the example of muddy water. If we take muddy water in a beaker and we allow to stand it for some time, so after some time we see the mud is settled down in the bottom of the beaker. So the process of settle down we call it sedimentation. The process of settle down of a component we call it sedimentation. So mud will be settled down in the bottom of the beaker and the clear water left behind. So we pour the clear water and the process of pouring the clear water is known as decanation. So there are two important terms, sedimentation and decanation, and with the help of this example you can easily understand what is sedimentation and what is decanation. The next method is filtration. So what is filtration? Even this method we use in our home daily. When we going to make a tea, we use a strainer to filter the tea. So this is a procedure of filtration. And if we are going to do it laboratory, so we use filter paper. In this method, the mixture can be separated by using filter paper. When the suspended solid is left on the filter paper and clear liquid passes out from the filter paper is known as filtrate. So in this procedure, you can see in the diagram, we fold the filter paper into cone shape and we place the filter paper, and then we pour the solution which we have to filter. So we pour the solution into filter paper. The solid residue is on filter paper and clear liquid passes out from the filter paper. So the clear liquid is filtrate. The clear liquid which we get is the filtrate, and the solid portion of the solution is known as residue. So these are the two important terms you have to remember, that the solid part is the residue which is left on the paper, filter paper, and the clear liquid which passes out from the filter paper is known as filtrate, which we collect in another beaker. For example, a mixture of chalk and water can be separated by filtration method, sawdust and water. So a mixture of chalk and water and sawdust and water, we can separate this mixture by the process of filtration. The next method is by distillation. So what is distillation? The process of converting a liquid into vapor by heating to boiling point and condensing the vapor to get the pure liquid is called distillation. So what is distillation? We heat the liquid into up to the boiling points and then condense the vapor and get the liquid. So this method is called the distillation method, and this method is used when the solid is non-volatile and liquid does not have high boiling point. So these two conditions are necessary. So these two conditions all of you have remember, that when we do the distillation, when solid is non-volatile and liquid does not have a high boiling point. For example, we can see salt can be separated from seawater by the process of distillation. So this is very good example that salt can be separated from seawater by the process of distillation. The next method is evaporation. Evaporation is a process of changing a liquid into gaseous state by heating it below its boiling point. So it's very important that evaporation is a process of changing liquid to gaseous state below its boiling point. For example, if we want to separate common salt in the mixture of water, so we can use this method. The next is separation of liquid-liquid mixture. So there are two methods, separating funnel and by fractional distillation. So in this diagram you can see separating funnels are long glass tube provided with tapes, and the method of this method is used for the separation of liquid which are immiscible. So this is very important point. When the liquids are immiscible, then we use the method of separating funnel. So the liquid should be immiscible. Put the mixture in the separating funnel, allow it to stand for some time. The heavier liquid forms the lower layer and the lighter liquid forms the upper layer. So you can see in this method, the lighter liquid take the upper layer and the heavier liquid take the lower layer. So this is the method of using a separating funnel. Then we come to the next method, fractional distillation. So when we use fractional distillation, the process of separation of two or more miscible liquid. So this point is very important. When liquids are miscible, we use the method of fractional distillation, and when liquids are immiscible, we use the method of separating funnel. So this is the major difference when we use separating funnel and when we use fractional distillation. So the procedure is here, the procedure of this method. A fractionating column is introduced in the distillation apparatus when the mixture of alcohol and water, we know alcohol and water are miscible. So we can separate it by the process of fractional distillation, is heated. The vapor rises up the column, cools and condenses to the liquid and falls back. The hot vapors rising up the fractionating column come in contact with the liquid falling down in the flask. The hot vapor transfer their energy to the cool liquid and changes them back to vapor. The change of liquid to vapor and the vapor changing back to liquid take place several times, giving the effect of several distillation. The vapor that finally enters the condenser contains the liquid with lower boiling point. So this is the whole procedure of fractional distillation. How can we do the fractional distillation? The important point is here, the liquid should be miscible. So you can see in the diagram, this is a fractional distillation procedure and this is a fractional distillating column. You can see in the diagram, the fractional distillating column. So this is the whole procedure of fractional distillation. The next is separation of liquid gas mixture. How can we separate liquid gas mixture? So the process are here. First is by heating. This method is based upon the principle that the solubility of a gas in a liquid decreases with increase in temperature. So when mixture of gas and liquid is heated, the gas escape out from the solution and liquid solvent is left in the container. So what is the process of heating? In this method, this is based on the basic principle is that solubility of gas in a liquid decreases when increasing the temperature. When we increase the temperature, the solubility of gas decreases. So on this principle, they use the method to separate the mixture. For example, you can understand it by the help of this example. To separate a mixture of carbon dioxide and water. You know, carbon dioxide is a gas. So the apparatus is fitted as shown below. You can see in the diagram. This is the apparatus of separation, the mixture. So you can see very well in this diagram. On heating, bubbles of carbon dioxide are formed. When we heat, bubble of carbon dioxide, you can see in the diagram, bubbles of a gas will formed, which leaves the solvent and move into drying chamber. So these bubble leaves the solvent and move into the drying chamber, where it is dried by using anhydrous calcium chloride. So it is dried by anhydrous calcium chloride and finally collected by upward displacement of air. Then we come to the next procedure, separation of gas-gas mixture. If both components are gases, how can we separate the mixture? So the gas-gas mixture can be separated by the following method. Fractional evaporation of mixture, by preferential liquefaction, by using suitable solvents, or by diffusion. So these are the method of separating gas-gas mixtures. The next topic is schematic scheme for separating the mixture. So here we can see some example, like if we want to separate common salt, iodine and sulfur. So what is the procedure? First we dissolve it in carbon disulfide. We know sulfur is dissolved in carbon disulfide. So what is the first step? The first step is we dissolve it in carbon disulfide and filter. So in filtrate there is a sulfur solution. In residue, common salt plus iodine. We know sulfur is soluble in carbon disulfide. So when we filter the solution in filtrate, we will get sulfur solution, and in residue we will get common salt plus iodine. Then how can we separate both of these? So we use sublimation, because we know iodine is a sublimate. So iodine will show sublimation. So by sublimation, iodine sublimate and residue common salt. And in this filtrate, we have sulfur solution evaporate to dryness. Then we obtain sulfur crystal. So in this method, we can separate these all. The another example is iron filling sulfur plus charcoal. So the first step is we pass magnet. We can do it by magnetic separation. So iron fillings cling to the magnet, and sulfur and charcoal, we dissolve it in carbon disulfide. So sulfur is dissolved in carbon disulfide. So we get sulfur solution and filtrate of charcoal. So evaporate to dryness to obtain sulfur crystal. So this is the procedure of separate this. Then we come to the next, common salt plus water plus sawdust. So we filter the solution. In filtrate there is a common salt plus water, and in residue there is a sawdust. We know when we filter the solution, so sawdust will be the residue. Then we do the distillation. So distillate water, in residue there is a common salt, so we can separate it by this method. And the next one is calcium carbonate, sodium chloride and sulfur. So first we use carbon disulfide solution. In residue we will have calcium carbonate plus sodium chloride, and in solution we have sulfur. So in residue we add water, shake and filter. So in residue there is a calcium carbonate, and filtrate there is a sodium chloride solution. We evaporate to dryness and we will obtain the sodium chloride crystal. Then the next, mercury plus water plus niter. How will we separate this? So put it in separating funnel, because this is immiscible liquids, mercury and water. So we will do it by separating funnel. Lower layer mercury, upper layer water plus niter, then distillation, residue niter, distillate water. So in this method we can separate all these mixtures. Students, here we have completed the chapter 3. So go through it carefully and learn the new terms which I have explained in this chapter. I hope all of you are doing your work properly. So focus on your studies and do your work on time. Thank you. Have a nice day.